In this final part in this series devoted to Improv Card Magic, I thought we would take a look at odd size packets, since we've only been working with even size packets thus far. Now, as mentioned here on my write-up, many of the shuffles we've used in this series are helpful for odd size packets of cards, and this has been shown elsewhere on the Hidden Structures channel. But with a little creativity, we can incorporate odd size packets and make use of everything I have shown you in this series thus far. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at today. So let's take a bird's eye view of the strategy. First, given an odd size packet, judiciously select and remove one card. And we'll show you what that means in just a moment. And second, designate this card as something like a guardian angel, a lucky charm, a supervisor of the routine or performance. So once I show you the strategy, I think you'll come up with your own original take on how to make use of this fun strategic element that will allow you to work with even size packets nonetheless. Okay, so let's say the spectator hands you 13 cards. So 13 random cards, okay? So let's go ahead and just shuffle a deck of cards here. And these should be well mixed already. Okay, so I'll just count out 13 random cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Very good. And then we can mix these as much as the spectator would like. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to, as always, we'll go ahead and look at the cards and kind of show the spectator how well they did in choosing a random packet of cards, okay? So let me just kind of fan these out like that, okay? So, wow, it's kind of getting to be quite a few cards here, so 13's on the larger side. So using all of the skills that you've learned in this series, I guess I should point out that there are some interesting features to this random packet of cards, and this kind of thing happens truly with random packets of cards. Check this out. So we got 4, check this out, 4 black cards in a row. 2 of them are clubs, 2 of them are spades. They're actually next to each other, right? They're in pairs. There's a king and 2 kings as well. Wow. Oh boy, crazy what randomness will give you, okay? And so what it shows is that our understanding of randomness is not correct. That's what it shows, actually. So check out these as well. You get 4 red cards. So a couple of diamonds in a row, there's a king, and then a 10 and king of hearts, right? And of course we have the king of hearts and king of diamonds next to each other there. Very nice. Okay, and then we get, of course, a red, black, black, red, red, couple of hearts there, and a spade, okay? So when I talk about judiciously choosing one card as like a guardian angel to watch over the performance, so what you would quickly do is choose truly any one of the cards. Now, the thing to do, if you can, is choose a card so that it leaves you with an even stronger structure that you can reveal at the end. Okay, so why don't we just practice that for just a moment. Now, as is, if we just kind of leave the cards as they are and we begin at the top, if you view it as an AMP structure, of course, we have opposite colors there, opposite colors there, couple of red kings, it's kind of nice, opposite colors, 2 black cards, and an ace, black ace, ace of spades, which is a nice card. So that's viewing it as an AMP moving from the top of the packet towards the bottom, okay? Now, when we go to view it as a mirrored structure, or two-cycle structure, this is where in your mind you're going to have to mentally remove one of the cards. Well, I guess I have to be careful, right? Because we truly are free to remove any one of these, which of course would very likely affect pairings if this is viewed as an AMP. So for example, if we remove the queen, we now have 2 hearts in a row, 2 black cards, 2 red cards, 2 red cards, which happen to be diamonds, 2 clubs, and then 2 spades. Wow, that's, quite honestly, that's feeling like that might be the strongest choice. Once again, it was just by serendipity, really. And in fact, a moment's reflection, given the cards that we've been dealt randomly, that's actually the best we could do in terms of matching up suits, right? Look at this. We have a couple of hearts. Okay, so that's good. Now, it is true we have a spade and a club. They're both black, which is good. But check this out. We have a spade there and a club here. Okay? Well, over here we have a couple of spades, a couple of clubs. So we could not have done better than what we see here regarding black cards. They are matched up to the greatest degree possible. If we remove this one, that is, right? Remove the queen of spades. So the real top card now is that 10 of hearts. We could not have done any better in our matching up of suits relative to black cards than what we see here. Okay? Now, the same is true, I believe, for red cards. Check this out. Because if the queen's gone, we get 2 hearts, come over here, and we get a diamond and a heart. Okay, it's okay. Same color, but different suit. But then we get a couple of diamonds. We're in the same situation. We could not have done better. The best we could do, given the red cards here, is to match up 2 of the hearts, 2 of the diamonds, and that's the best we could do. And that is what we're looking at here, which is amazing. Okay, so really they're matched up by suit to the greatest degree that these particular cards would allow, right? If this one's removed. Isn't that amazing? So boy, that's worth thinking about. And I've already kind of pointed out by starting at the top at the very beginning, that's like removing the bottom one. And we didn't get anything all that amazing necessarily. I guess we got some of these to match up in suits. I need to correct what I said, because if we remove this one, check it out, none of them match in suit. They might match in color, right? Different color, different color, different color. Those are the same color, but not the same suit, of course. Different color, same color, but different suits. It appears that throwing out that ace of spades would have led to a less interesting and perhaps less surprising AMP structure. Now, it is true that since we're removing any one of these, if you see an advantageous choice in selecting any one of these in the middle and pulling that out as your guardian angel, and it leaves you with a really powerful AMP structure, then go ahead and use that, right? Now, just glancing at it quickly, I can't see that removing one of the interior cards is going to greatly strengthen our situation versus just getting rid of the queen of spades here, okay? So we may end up going with that. With any of these performances, considering the mixing that's always done, after we kind of take a look at the cards, the fact that you would be able to predict anything about those pairs whatsoever is going to be incredibly surprising to most any observer. So kind of keep that in mind. So what we could do is we could just remove this one and go with it as is and view it as an AMP, okay? But if you've watched the other videos in this series, we could have had the cards face down. Like we did, we could mix them all up, 13 cards, and just offer them to the spectator and say, just randomly choose a card that we're going to designate as our guardian angel for this routine. And it actually doesn't matter which card they choose. They set it down. You could reveal it at that time, I guess, if you want. But the only part that it's playing is it's moving an odd-sized packet to an even-sized packet so that we can use all of the wonderful techniques that we've shown you in this series. Okay? So that would certainly be one way to proceed. And if you do that, and you're free to choose any three of these structures, it's very likely that one of these is going to give you a very strong relationship among these cards. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. And hopefully you know that if you've watched other videos in this series. So I think really the strongest option was the very first one that we explored at the very beginning. Namely, we'll go ahead and designate the Queen of Spades as our guardian angel for this routine. And so she would just be set off to the side. And then we've had this sheet up many times before. Now, I have not written out a prescribed list of shuffles to go through, okay? But we know we're treating this as an AMP. That's the important thing. And I had our little guardian angel off camera. Sorry about that. And our guardian angel here is going to kind of keep an eye on things and help us keep things from going awry, right? So now, by the way, I mean, you would not show the spectator all of this write-up here, right? I mean, this is just for educational purposes here. And so we've decided to go with the AMP structure, okay? Well, just think about what we can do with an AMP structure, an even number of cards. Well, there's a whole bunch of things we can do to preserve it. One is to do the Bessie 2-2. Do you remember that? It's on line 16 on the left. This is where you go 1, 2 from the top, 1, 2 from the bottom, 1, 2 from the top, 1, 2 from the bottom, 1, 2 from the top, 1, 2 from the bottom. Okay, so it's still an AMP. A wonderful way to convert an AMP to a 2-cycle and do it in such a way that you're giving the spectator some important choices that really should make a difference. And they certainly will seem that way to the spectator, okay? But in the end, they don't, right? You know that. It's the RLR. Do you remember that? It's line 9 on our table on the left. So the RLR will convert an AMP to a 2-cycle. So do you remember how that works? You do a left, right, and now normally with the LR shuffle, we would do left, right again. Left, right, just repeat that action. But this next card, now that we've built up one level, it's free to go on either pile. So maybe they want it over here instead. So you finish that pile. You finish that layer. So now we have 2 cards in each pile. This one's free to go anywhere. Spectator can tell you, oh, you want it over here? Okay, let's finish that level. What about this one? You wanted it over here this time. That's fine. What about here? You want it over here again? Okay, what about the last one? You want it on the left this time. Very good. How would you like us to stack these piles? Right on left? You sure? Okay, very good. Now you know it's a 2-cycle. And once it's a 2-cycle, you can perform random cuts. You can have the spectator do that. Or more impressively, you can do a Charlier shuffle. Top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom. Okay, you remember that? So you move over a certain number of cards, and in your mind, you can say top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom. Kind of keeps you on track. And I have a video on the Charlier shuffle on my channel. If you want to master that shuffle, it's one worth learning. There's no question. Okay, so we have the Charlier shuffle, and that leaves 2 cycles alone. It doesn't hurt them. Now, if you don't mind, especially if you've watched all of the videos in this series, you have to realize that this list of shuffles here that I'm showing you, these are just single shuffles. See that in parentheses? Okay. So I do want to point out here, I'll just show you one here. But if you're willing to learn special pairs of shuffles, you can do some things that we can't do seemingly from our table of shuffles here on the left. So for example, if you have a multiple of 4 cards, 4 times something, we do here, it's 4 times 3 is 12, you can do something that's called an LRK. Now normally an LR shuffle will harm a 2-cycle structure, okay? So it won't necessarily be a 2-cycle structure after an LR. The LR is something we've pretty much exclusively have applied to mirrored structures, right? The stay stack principle. But it ends up if you have 4 end cards, you can do an LR shuffle, okay? And this would blow people away if they know a little bit about what we're doing on this channel. Doing this LR shuffle at this stage, when they think, or they maybe know now that it's a 2-cycle, they're going to be completely befuddled. Like, oh, wait a second, you can't do that. It's going to destroy things. Well, it does, unless you follow it up with a Klondike. Okay, so they can randomly stack these like that, and then as long as you follow that up with a Klondike, you're safe. Okay, so those two together, LR followed by a Klondike, performed on a cyclic construction of size 4n, it will preserve that 2-cycle structure. Okay. So anyway, I just thought I would throw in something new, since you've seen just about all of these on the chart multiple times if you've been watching the series. Let's see, what should we do next that might be kind of fun? I guess we could do a 50% coating, or do a super coat. Okay, so this is where you just count out half of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Drop these over here, and then give the spectator a choice here. How should we stack these? Right on left? Okay. Now, in the mind of the spectator, they'll realize that stacking them in opposite orders changes the arrangement of the cards. There's no question. That's just intuitively known. But what they don't know is that to change the structure in such a way that you haven't lost track of the updated structure. And it's a structure, number one, that you're aware of, but it's a structure you can work with as well and do other things. So it's mirrored now. Well, boy, once it's mirrored, you have the stay stack principle. And what I mentioned in video part 1 of this series, when we were working with 12 cards, 12 is a wonderful number in the field of mathematical card magic because of all of its divisors, okay? And so 2 divides into 12, 3, 4, and 6. Well, what that means then is you can deal out into, kind of left-right, into 2 piles with random stacking decided by the spectator. Because 3 divides into 12, you can deal out into 3 piles. Isn't that nice? Okay. And you can't do this unless the packet size is divisible by 3, which 12 is. You can actually deal out into 4 piles because 4 is a divisor of 12. Isn't that great? Okay, and so you can stack from left to right or right to left, or if you've watched some of the other videos on this channel, you can do a leapfrog stacking. So why don't we go ahead and show you that? And it's actually kind of mentioned here. Let me just show you line 10. This is called the RC shuffle. Think of RC being factors of 12. So here, 4 times 3 is 12. We have that plus J for judicious. Well, what that means is that you can stack not only from left to right and right to left, you can do some other clever stacking. And one I call the leapfrog stacking. So this is where you pick up, like from either end, pick up that pile, and it leaps over its neighbor and lands on top of the third pile. The original second pile leaps over the third and lands on top of the fourth. And now these can be randomly stacked, and it won't hurt the mirrored construction at all. Okay? Now, another thing I have not shown you at all in this series. And I don't know why I haven't, but if you focus on line 10 still, we're still there, you'll see in small writing across versus down. Okay, what does that mean? Well, with all of the dealing that we can do using divisors of 12, we are not restricted to just dealing like from left to right and building up things that way. We can actually deal down a number of cards. So for example, to kind of mimic what we just did a moment ago, though it leads you to a very different ordering of these cards. That's the important thing, is instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, we could go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's dealing down as indicated there on the chart. And we can still do this left to right, right to left, or leapfrog. Why don't we leapfrog the opposite direction like that? This one leaps over its neighbor and lands there. How do you want these stacked? You want this one on top of that one? That's just fine. Okay. So instead of it just dealing left to right, you can deal down the number of cards, the requisite number of cards. Okay. So that's really powerful. Why don't we do a ferrule just for fun? Yeah. Line 12 there. Remember a ferrule? This is where you divide the packet in half, and then you just perfectly interlace them, okay? And technically, one of the interlacings will be a ferrule in, and the other one will be a ferrule out. Well, both of them preserve mirrored structures, as you can see on the chart there. We can do an even or odd up jog. Okay, that's kind of a fun one. People like to actually watch this one. They think it's kind of cool for some reason, but they do. And then you strip those out, and we can randomly stack these. Ask the spectator how they would like those stacked, okay? And something I thought of that we could do with this packet, using the days of the week, we could do 2 identical overcoats. That's line 7, that 2O-C. Do you remember that? Where if you deal out 50% or more of the cards and do that twice, it preserves mirrored structures. Isn't that interesting? So you could say, well, what is your favorite day of the week? Okay. Now it's important that the number of letters in the days of the week fall somewhere between 6 and 12, which they do. Okay, so that's why I chose it. So maybe they say their favorite day of the week is Saturday. That's a common one, or maybe Friday or whatever, but Saturday. So what you do is you just spell out Saturday, Saturday, drop the rest on top, and then you just do it a second time to just really mix things. Saturday, Saturday. So doing that twice preserves mirrored structures. Okay, it will have changed the order of the cards. There's no question about that, and you can check that. But it hasn't destroyed the mirrored nature of these cards relative to the pairings that we noted at the very beginning. Okay, and because 12 is a fairly decent number, we could do a first shall be last and the last shall be first. That is shuffle 25 at the very bottom. So if you remember how this works, is you just begin dealing out the cards until the spectator says stop, and then you deal out into the next pile until they say stop, and they can say stop wherever they would like. Stop there, that's fine. Okay, and then to be true to the name of this shuffle, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. So you just stack in the opposite order to which they were dealt out, and all of that movement of the cards is equivalent to a packet reversal. Well, a packet reversal preserves all 3 of our structures. Okay, they're all symmetric relative to a packet reversal. Okay, they're not hurt by it. Now, as you know, we could mix this for a very, very long time. We really, really could. But since it is mirrored, a really classy way to get pairings, of course, is to use the Klondike Shuffle. Take the top and bottom off as one, set those down as a pair. Top and bottom off as one, another pair. And top and bottom is one, top and bottom is one, top and bottom is one, and then set the last pair down. Okay, so we got our pairings. Okay, so we wouldn't necessarily have to finish in exactly this way, or we could have done different mixing along the way, or we could have continued mixing what we had just a moment ago. Okay, but I'm hoping that if you've watched this series, you know the variety of ways that you can just put these cards through tremendous mixing, but in the end, arrive exactly back to where you need to be. Okay, so here are our pairings, and so at this point, you could, if you'd written a little prediction after seeing the cards, you could bring that out, I suppose. So do you remember what we noted about the pairings? It's like, wow, these are interesting. It really seems like there's, see that? Yeah, I think all of them within each pair are the same color. What are the chances that we matched up these cards into pairs of the same color? Do you know what the probability of that is? Very, very small. But I don't think we've stopped there. I think we've actually, yes, we have. We've actually matched up the cards by suit. Not just by color, but by suit. Wait, well, no, that's actually not possible. Why is that? Why would that be impossible? Oh, it's because we don't have an even number of the different suits. So I think nonetheless, we have done the best that any human could do. We have matched these up by suit, and the ones we haven't matched by suit could not be matched up by suit given the remaining cards. Oh, wow, that's hard to believe. Let's just check this here. Are these the same color? Oh, they are indeed, and check that out. They are the same suit. Let's see, what about these here? Oh, yes! We got a couple of diamonds. How are we doing this? Oh, a couple of spades. Let's check this one with a bit of trepidation. Oh, check that out. A couple of clubs. Now, wait a second. Didn't I say that we didn't match them all up? Nice suit. What's this one? Oh, yes. These are matched up by color, but not suit. Well, I'm kind of hoping that there's not a heart or a diamond here, because otherwise my claim is false, right? Because I said we couldn't match them up any better than we have. So I hope these aren't red. And they aren't indeed. It's the 8 of spades and the ace of clubs. Check that out. We have matched them up the very best that they could be. No one could have done better than what we've done here. Wow, that is amazing. Are you going to explain to me how you did that? Okay. Hopefully by part 7 and the final part in this series, you know how we accomplished it. Especially since I've kind of talked through at each stage what the updated packet structure is. Okay. So if a person is not surprised by this outcome and that you're able to nail it as a final divination and prediction, I don't know what could possibly impress that individual. So anyway, so I thought we would at least tie odd size packets to what we've been doing. And as I mentioned earlier, there's many videos on the Hidden Structures channel that looks at odd size packets and the wonderful things you can do with them as well. But this is kind of a clever way to guarantee that in the end you are working with an even size packet by just designating one of the cards either openly selected by you or randomly chosen by the spectator as a guardian angel to watch over the routine and make sure the performance stays on track. Okay, or however you want to sell the importance of this card, overseeing things. Okay, and of course the only real purpose it's playing is to move an odd number of cards to an even number of cards. That's the real purpose, right? Okay, wow. Well, thank you. Kudos to you if you've actually watched this entire 7-part series. Whoa. And hopefully you've learned some great concepts and techniques and principles along the way. So thank you for watching, and I encourage you, if you haven't already, maybe take a look at the Hidden Structures Boot Camp series. And within that series, we actually do at times work with odd size packets, and I introduce there a lot of wonderful routines that you can do with odd size packets that you actually can't do with even size packets. Okay, so even and odd size packets are both equally valuable in the field of mathematical card magic. So thank you again for watching.